I am doing a review on the Smith & Wesson SD9 2.0. This gun right here. It's something I bought for my son for Christmas as a gift, and he complained about it not working right, and he said it didn't. It stovepiped. It would not fire when you pulled the trigger, and it had failure to feed and failure to extract and light strikes on the primers. So I looked at it. I just decided to take a look at it and see if what he was saying was right, or if it's something maybe he was doing. And I looked at it, and I fed some rounds into the factory magazine that they gave us when I purchased the gun, and I found that it would do exactly that. It stovepiped a few times. It had light strikes on the primer. It also had failure to feed. It would not feed the round going into the barrel in the feed ramp. It would just stick sideways. Also, when I noticed that when it completed its cycle and there was no more rounds left, the magazine's catch would not catch the slide and hold the slide back to the rear like it's supposed to. That's not acceptable for me for a handgun. So I called Smith & Wesson to see if they would remedy the situation. Well, they said to send it in and put it in a box, and they'll send me a ticket to send it in with. And so I did. I sent it in, and they mailed it back to me with a letter, and it didn't look like they did much to it or anything to it. I examined it a little bit, checked out different components. It looked the same, so I didn't think much of it. And so I read the letter, and the letter here says, okay, the problems, I guess it says cannot take down. I don't know what that means, but it says misfires. This is just all stuff I told them. Slide binds, trigger recovery. I don't know what all that is. So it says light primer strikes will not cycle reset, especially rounds consistently will not cycle or reset. I don't know who wrote that, but that's not what I sent them. But they requested service on it. I'm guessing that somebody in the office wrote that for the service department, and then the service department got a hold of it and says cannot replicate customer's complaint. Past range testing. Well, I did not think that would remedy the problem, seeing how they couldn't fix a problem that they didn't find. So I don't know how they didn't find the problem. Maybe they fired 1, 2, 3 rounds out of the handgun and put it back in the box and printed this nifty little letter out. Let me make sure the serial number's covered. Printed that nifty little letter out saying that they couldn't replicate the problem and sent me back the gun. Well, I took the gun back out and fired it with the magazine that it came with, and it had the same malfunction again. So I called Smith and Wesson again, and I said, well, they couldn't replicate the problem, but as soon as I got the magazine and the gun back together and married them together and shot it, it would have the same malfunction. They said, well, it was the magazine, so we'll send you a brand new magazine. It has to be the magazine. And I said, well, if it's not the magazine and I can't remedy the situation, and I've tried to take the handgun back and they won't accept it back, as Academy has no return policy on handguns, and I can't pawn it or sell it at the pawn shop because they don't want it. Smith and Wesson SD, I don't know why they wouldn't want it, but they didn't want it. I've sold many guns to that pawn shop, and they've always wanted what I've had in the past, and I've gotten reasonable deals on them. And so I took it to a different gun shop because I couldn't sell it there, and they said they would offer me $50 for it. I was like, $50? I spent a little over $300 on that gun. I mean, why would you only offer me 50? And it's brand new. And they're like, well, we just don't have a customer base for that gun. I just didn't know what to think about that. So apparently it's probably got a bad reputation already. I don't know. I don't want to assume anything, but $50 was kind of a low offer, so I didn't take them up on that. I'd rather just scrap it and melt it down and make a knife out of it or something. So they sent me a new magazine. I fired that new magazine, and I got the same results with the new magazine. And I bought PMags. And then I looked online to try to fix it with whatever remedies that they would come up on these forums for Smith & Wesson. They said, just stretch the magazine out. That'll fix the problem, the magazine spring. And so I did. I stretched the magazine spring out, put it back in, same problems. So I'm sending a video along with my review of this gun. As far as I'm concerned, if you're in law enforcement, I would not carry this gun. This would not be a safe gun to carry. You would be putting your life in jeopardy, risking that it would not fire under stress or duress. You're having to deal with an extra problem while you're under stress to clear a chamber and recycle the gun and get it back into battery so you can fire it. You're having problems loading a new magazine into the gun and releasing the slide and having it go back forward because the slide doesn't stay to the rear after your last round is expelled. And that's kind of important when you're under stress of anything, if you're in law enforcement or not. If you're keeping this gun for concealed carry or personal carry, or you're keeping it at home for home defense, you're going to be under stress when you're using the gun. You don't need that extra problem. So that's my review of this gun. I'm sending a video along with it. You can watch it right after this. Thank you. I've fired probably about 1,000 rounds out of this Smith & Wesson SD 2.0, and I have not gotten it to cycle a magazine. Smith & Wesson, I sent it back to Smith & Wesson without the magazine, and then they told me it was the magazine. And that the problem lied within the magazine, that they found nothing wrong with the firearm. Well, here I am back outside shooting with the brand new magazine, and I've had 2 malfunctions
so far. I got about 5 more rounds left in this magazine. Brand new magazine with already 3 malfunctions. Now we'll see what it does now. Alright, it functioned that time, but it went through 3 cycles without functioning. And give you an example, there's another Smith & Wesson magazine they gave me. It came with the gun, and this was the original problem. There you go. Malfunction, didn't get through all the magazines. Oh, no malfunction. Slide didn't go back to the rear after the last round was fired. That's the only malfunction. I'll try to see if we can replicate the problem again. This is the factory magazine that came with the gun. Here's the aftermarket Smith magazine that came after the fact, when they said it was the magazine that had an issue. I'll take some out of this Pro Mag and load this magazine that's supposed to be the cure-all. See if I can get it to act up again. So, put about 7 rounds in there so far. That's probably, okay, that's maybe 8 or 9. It says 9. See if I can get it replicated again. There we go. Malfunction. Another malfunction. See? That's what I'm talking about. This gun is not reliable. I would not use this for home defense. I don't know why they're saying it's the magazine. This is a magazine they just sent me. Here we go with failure to feed on the last round. Failure to feed. I'm very disappointed with Smith & Wesson. I've tried to remedy the situation by calling them. I don't know what else to do. Obviously, I'll run another check with the new magazine again. The new magazine. The old one has a little carbon on it. And I'll see if I can get it malfunction again. Oddly enough, if I fire this handgun with one hand, it seems to like to function that way. My guess to the problem, being that I was a military armor, third shop armor, that means direct support armor in the Army, my guess would be that the magazine release sticks out too far, and when you're functioning the weapon and holding the weapon with the proper grip, it comes in contact with your palm. If you're left-handed, it comes in contact with the palm of your index finger, and that causes a problem. Well, my son's right-handed. I gifted this gun to my son for his Christmas present, and he had the same problem with the right-handed, doing it right-handed. So my only guess is that magazine release is just sticking out a little too far, and that's what's causing all the problems. But as of now, I do not have any faith in this gun for home protection. See, there we go again. Last round spent, no magazine to the rear. Minor malfunction, but still malfunction. If you had to do the speed reload, that would be one more function that you'd have to have in order to save your life. That's not, to me, is not acceptable. Clearing a round out of the chamber because it didn't fire or didn't feed is not acceptable. So I'm going to try to put some more bullets in it. See where we're at. If I was going to carry this, say I was in law enforcement, and I was going to carry this for my duty gun, I wouldn't. It would not be reliable enough for me to want to carry. I would not feel safe carrying this gun. I would get something more reliable. Maybe an FN, Beretta, Heckler and Koch, Glock, any of those. Not a SIG. Gotta wait for the wind to stop. My target's blown all over. Oh, just a minute. Okay, here we go. All right. Trying to recreate the malfunction again. There we go. Another malfunction. See? Can't get through an entire 15 rounds without a malfunction. That's not acceptable. And there again. Okay. Although that was the last round, so it wouldn't have. Well, it should have stayed back to the rear regardless. So yeah. 2 malfunctions, 1 magazine. That's not good. And I didn't even fill the magazine all the way. I didn't fill that magazine all the way. That magazine, I think, had 9 rounds in it, somewhere like that. Just by comparison, these P-Mags, they're people don't like them. Don't know why. To me, it works. It works. I haven't had a problem with P-Mags before, but other people have. Magazine's not to the rear. Last round fired. Just not very pleased with this handgun. Probably will never use it. I tried to return it